You know, one of my favorite things about cooking is using fresh seasonal produce. Of course, here on Spain on the Fork, I use fresh produce all year round, even when it's not in season. But when it is in season, it gives that particular dish an incredible pop of flavors. Anyways, that's exactly what we're doing today. We're gonna grab some fresh asparagus, which are in season right now, typically between March and June, and create a delicious dish of Spanish asparagus rice with eggs. Let me tell you, this dish has so many great textures and flavors. The asparagus really shines through, and it comes together in a little over 30 minutes. The perfect dish for one of those busy weeknight dinners, or even better, like I always tell you, for a relaxed weekend lunch next to a bottle of Spanish wine. Let's begin by grabbing a bundle of fresh asparagus and cutting the spears into 1-inch pieces, which is about 2.5 centimeters. Now these asparagus have already been washed and patted dry, and I've got between 16 to 17 spears in this bundle. Once the asparagus are cut, I'm going to discard the bottom pieces of the spears as they tend to have a tough texture. For the next ingredient, I'm going to grab 1 cup, which is about 170 grams of cooked jarred garbanzo beans. This is the same thing as the canned ones, adding them into a sieve and rinsing them under some cold running water. Then I'm going to finely grate 1 large tomato, and we'll reserve 1 cup of uncooked round rice, which is about 200 grams. Round rice is very similar to either medium grain rice or arborio rice, but to make this recipe, you can use whatever type of rice you like. All right, let's start cooking up our dish. I'm gonna add in 3 cups of vegetable broth into a saucepan. This is about 710 milliliters. The broth I'm using is homemade. You'll find the recipe on how to make it in the iCard above. We'll pinch in a 1/4 teaspoon of saffron threads, and we'll heat it with a medium-high heat. Now the saffron threads I'm using to make this rice dish are once again from Golden Saffron, truly some of the best saffron out there, super high quality, incredible flavor. You'll find a link where you can get some in the description box below. While our broth is heating up, I'm going to heat a large fry pan with a medium-high heat and add in 2 tablespoons, which is 30 milliliters of extra virgin olive oil. After heating the olive oil for 1 minute on a medium-high heat, you don't want it to get too hot. I'm going to add in half of an onion that I finely diced and the pieces of asparagus. And start mixing these ingredients around with that olive oil. You want to mix this continuously, that way nothing burns and everything evenly sautés. After about 3 minutes, and the onion is nice and translucent and the asparagus lightly sauteed, you don't want to brown them. I'm going to add in 4 cloves of garlic that I roughly minced. And we'll continue to mix the ingredients around with that olive oil. We're only going to go for about 30 seconds here. You don't want to overcook that garlic. You just want it to be nice and aromatic. Then we'll add in 1 teaspoon of sweet smoked Spanish paprika, which is 2.30 grams. And we'll give this a quick mix. That way that paprika is evenly coating all the vegetables. And like I always tell you, when you add in paprika into a hot pan, you want to mix it in there quickly, otherwise it easily gets a bitter flavor. Then we'll add in our grated tomato. And we'll give this a quick mix. That way that grated tomato is evenly spread out throughout the pan, and we're going to simmer this for about 1 minute or until that grated tomato has really thickened up. After about 1 minute, and you can see that grated tomato has really thickened up, I'm going to add in our 1 cup of uncooked round rice, our 1 cup of cooked chickpeas that we drained, and season everything with sea salt and freshly cracked black pepper. And we'll give this a mix, that way all these ingredients are evenly mixed together. Once everything's well mixed, I'm going to grab our saffron infused vegetable broth that we have heating and gently add it into the pan. And we'll give this one final mix. That way all the ingredients are evenly distributed throughout the pan. After this step, you don't want to mix the rice again, otherwise it disrupts the way that it cooks. As our rice is cooking, I'm going to crack 4 eggs, each one into individual bowls. I like to do this before I add the eggs into the pan, as it ensures that no shells go in there and that the yolks are not broken. After about 8 to 9 minutes, you can see a lot of that broth has incorporated into the rice, but there's still some broth left. You don't want to fully bring it down, otherwise when you're cooking your eggs, your rice is going to overcook. I'm going to lower this to a low-medium heat and start adding the eggs into the rice. I like to create little pockets, that way the eggs sit in there perfectly. We'll crack some fresh pepper over the eggs and place a lid on the pan. And we're going to cook this with the lid on between 4 to 5 minutes. This is enough time for those eggs to fully cook through, with the egg whites nice and firm and those egg yolks still nice and creamy, and for all that broth to incorporate into the rice. That way the rice is perfectly cooked. After about 5 minutes, all these ingredients should be perfectly cooked. I'm going to remove the lid from the pan. And check it out, look how beautiful this turned out. I'm going to remove this from the heat. And there it is, our Spanish asparagus rice with eggs is done. Such a beautiful presentation to this, very easy to make. Let's give it a try and see how it tastes. Now, it's time for the moment of truth. Here we go. Bravo. There's so many flavors going on with that saffron and sweet smoked Spanish paprika, and the rice is perfectly cooked, but most importantly, those asparagus are in season. They have such a beautiful flavor to them. The garbanzo beans add texture, and then those eggs with the creamy egg yolk just takes us to the next level. You saw this a beautiful rice dish that comes together in a little over 30 minutes. Make it at home. You are gonna absolutely love it. Really quick before I go, a shout out to a couple of my patrons, Winston C. Hall and Darren Allen. Again, guys, thank you so much for being patrons of Spain on a Fork. You know how much I appreciate you. For the rest of you, if you're not with me on Patreon, consider becoming one. It helps with ingredients and equipment to continue making videos like this. You'll find my Patreon link in the description box below and iCard above. If you enjoyed today's video, hit that like button. Leave me a comment below, and if you're not subscribed, you know what to do. Smash that subscribe button. Till the next time, hasta luego.